So as this is the last of this series of A Walk in the Garden, I thought I'd show you my little package deal. This is the corner of our garden where it all started, and the dogs are over here, as is the cat. They, whenever I come up the backyard, they always gather together. Check out what I'm doing. And here's our chook pen, and the chooks are in hiding somewhere. A few lovely little passion fruit on the vine there. But here is my walk in the garden studio. You would have seen in some of the videos that I was carrying a backpack. That's the backpack I use to carry all the stuff around. This is the holder. It's the selfie stick, and I obviously put my phone in that when I'm walking, and that extends out quite a long way, and makes a very effective device. It was one of the first things I got when I started this process, and the reason was because, let me just show you some things here. I started off using this, trying to use this camera. I have done YouTubes in the past, and had been using that camera in the past to do them, but it was always situated in a place where I could effectively control the environment, and it was a number of years ago, so that camera has a much lower quality video, but also the sound no longer worked on that camera. So when I first started out, I had to try and work out how to do the sound effectively. So I moved over to using my phone, and the phone worked really well. It's a Samsung 8, and it worked really well in the first days. It took me a long time to work out the two major problems, which was, could I effectively get what I did recorded onto the phone, off the phone and onto my computer. I bought some software to edit Walk in the Garden with. Getting it into that device was a learning experience. And then originally when I started videoing, I discovered that Samsung had this annoying little process where when you recorded video, it was an inverted image, a reversed image. And I had to do an enormous lot of research to work out how to get it to stop doing that. And eventually it's quite simple, but it was a problem in the first place. And so I worked all of that out and did a lot of the early recording, all the recording before Christmas I did on my phone. And that was fine. And so then I was able to use this tripod, which was the original tripod that I had with this camera. Use that. I was able to take that connection from there and put it on there, and so I could put the camera in a permanent spot, the phone in a permanent spot when I needed to do short-term, stable videos. Then at Christmas time, my wonderful family made an investment in me, and I loved that. My daughters bought this beautiful mic, which was so much better than the one that I was using, and I've currently got it on here. And what I do is I record the sound for the most part on my phone, and then I can take it off that recording, and I can add it to either the other camera that I'm currently filming with right now, which I'll show you in a second, or I can use the video off the camera, off the phone, when I'm walking along. And my son and his girlfriend brought me this incredible mic, which, if I'm sitting in one position, the first time I used it was in the video with Tyler. I'm able to wrap that up in a tree, or stick it on one of these tripods, and that stops a lot of the ambient wind noise when I'm recording, and so I can use that, but I can't use that when I'm walking around. I also then went and got this tripod here, which I use with my primary camera for the most part. It's a beautiful little tripod, so that worked really well. So then all of the family for Christmas chipped in together to buy this camera, which is predominantly a still camera, but like digital cameras, all digital cameras, it'll take video. What I discovered was that this just takes beautiful pictures, and the video quality is so much better than I'm able to get in any other setting. And I know that it's not the greatest that you can get. It's not an expensive camera, although it's not a cheap one. But I was just so thrilled with that. So my family invested in me and the walk in the garden when I was at Christmas, for Christmas, and that really gave me some momentum coming into the new year to try and step up. And as I look back at the first videos that I did, I can see that the quality is a lot better. The longer I go on, I've learned a lot of the editing process. I had to learn how to take video from one thing and put it on the audio from one thing and put it on another. I've learned how to splice things together and learned little tricks on how to make all of that work. And I'm incredibly appreciative of the love that my family showed me in helping me put all this stuff together. So that's a little vision of the background of a walk in the garden. G'day, I'm Roland Hearn, and this is a walk in the garden. 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 This is it. This is episode 52. I feel like in these 52 episodes, I've been able to put together a really good, solid reflection of the journey that I've been on in my life, and how and how discovering the central nature of love has been an imperative part of walking through life and learning how to be the very best human being that I can be, and to enjoy life in the most profound way that I can. So I came to the decision that I would finish up Walk in the Garden in this format at that point. And that doesn't mean that Walk in the Garden has come to an end, but it does mean that I'm going to take a step back and think about how to move forward in the future. I'm very confident that there are some opportunities that will present themselves in the near future. In fact, it may only be a few weeks before I start doing videos again in a different format. But this last year, that began with me wrestling with these issues related to how do I navigate the feelings that I'm having in relationship to what's happening in the world, and the way the world is processing the pandemic and the related crises that were happening at that point in time. How do I navigate that space and remain true to the processes that I've been working through in my own life? And of course, my faith has been a big part of that, but I have tried all the way through to minimize the amount that I reflect on faith in that process, because I don't want to come across as trying to convince people that they have to think differently about their world, but that to show how naturally the ideas that form the Walk in the Garden work in the real world, and how those ideas best work built upon an understanding of who God is and how God has related to our lives and continues to desire to relate to our lives. So that was the Walk in the Garden. The Walk in the Garden was the image that the biblical story of Adam and Eve represents the ideal of relationship with God, relationship with each other, and relationship with creation. And then as I unpacked my thinking processes, which would be reflected in walking in my garden, that I could use that as a journey back to the kind of reality that is reflected in that story. So that was the journey of the walking the garden. As things have unpacked, I went in many different directions than what I had anticipated when I first started. Things didn't work out exactly as I thought they might. It took a lot longer to get through to an adequate response to COVID, and even today we've taken a step back or two because of the new strain of the virus. So that's still going on. But I feel like this journey has been it's been a valuable one for me, and I know that there are some people that have journeyed all the way through with us, and I know that there have been people that have watched just one or two episodes, and so I'm obviously completely fine with where that is fitted. But this draws a natural conclusion. I was thinking about it the other day. I've been able to do some travel during this time. I had hoped that in this process I was going to get up to some of my favorite places in the world in Southeast Asia, but that obviously hasn't happened. But I have been able to get around Australia, Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, drove up to Bundaberg and Maryborough in Queensland, and then was able to fly out to Longreach in central Queensland. So that travel portion gave me some different context to work in, and then I've tried to, as often as possible, go to locations around Brisbane that I love or had wanted to experience throughout my life, and then use that as the context for talking about the issues of the walk in the garden. Of course, if you journey with me, you've been aware of that, but just reflecting on that at this point in time, that's been an incredibly valuable experience for me. I've really enjoyed it. And then as I've walked through these processes and thought about them continuously, I am increasingly convinced that the construct of love, worth, and honor is the most important thing we'll ever wrestle with in our lives, and it's juxtaposed against the very real human struggle of worthlessness expressed in our shame. In whatever form we might deal with that as individuals, it seems we all do, and I am convinced that that is because our hearts long for a genuine relationship of love with the one who is ultimately love, God, the creator of the universe. So all of those things have rested on these two primary ideas that that I've expressed over and over again. The first idea is the three parts of the walk in the garden, which is that love and worth are two sides of the same coin. That that the search for meaning is a search for worth, and that the struggle with worthlessness is a struggle with shame. And the other major idea has been the idea that centers relationships in constructs that allow us to deal with our shame, and those constructs were the ideas of trust, safety, vulnerability, affirmation, and belonging. Those two pieces expressed in that way have been the foundation for the walk in the garden all the way along. And quite honestly, I am really pleased. I've taken this journey, and I'm really pleased with how pieces came off. I wish I could be more professional in the putting together of a script to go by, more professional in the photographic part of it, the videoing part of it. But those things aside, that's probably reflective of my own shame. Those things aside, I'm actually really, really happy with the way this has all come together. So I hope that you've been able to enjoy this journey with me. I hope that some of the places that I went to kind of became an interesting context in which to wrestle with this process. Some of the things that I've seen across this time have been remarkable. My mind still gets thrilled and excited with the vision of that goanna walking across the picnic space there at Mount Tambourine. So I hope this has been a process for you that has been enjoyable, interesting, maybe humorous from time to time, but compelling in the challenge for you to keep walking in your garden, keep discovering those two major ideas, and keep exploring what it means to be in relationship with God, who is love, in the rest of your lives. I think that from now on, the walk in the garden will primarily sit in the space of addressing the issues of faith, whatever form it takes. That's probably the shift that it will make. It won't be weekly, although sometimes it may be. But that's where I'm headed to from here. So thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Thank you for the love that you have expressed to me in different means of communication. I deeply and profoundly pray that your life would be enriched by the ideas that I have been seeking to give expression to in this walk. So keep walking in your garden, and I'll see you next time, whenever that is.